Bigger than five. Bigger than five. Bigger than five. Bigger than five. Bigger than five.
All right, so boom. Welcome back to Sports Chat with Sid. This is episode 3. Today we're going to go over Formula 1 and basketball. Hopefully I get it in the same video. I've been working on my storage, so let's try. I'm going to start with F1, like I said before, and then we're going to go into some basketball. I will make sure to put chapters so I can separate the F1 from the basketball. So for the people who want to do F1, it's going to be a beginning. The people who want to do basketball later on, and we move. So this weekend was the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And it was pretty good. It was the end of a triple header. So basically, we had 3 races back to back. I think it was Suzuka, Bahrain, and then Saudi Arabia. And we have a break this weekend, thank God, because there's a lot of basketball going on. So it was going to help me catch up with a lot of basketball. And then next week is going to be Miami. So, and that is also a sprint weekend. So that's going to be really exciting. To get Saudi Arabia started, we're gonna go over some tech, and then we're gonna get into the race. So some of the tech is hot. We in the desert now. It's both Bahrain and Saudi Arabia in the desert technically. But Saudi Arabia is actually way hotter than Bahrain is, especially because Bahrain is a night race, and Saudi Arabia is also like an evening ish type of race too. But both of those pretty hot. And so we're gonna talk about some of the things that the teams have been bringing, the different cooling systems, and how that either helps or doesn't help. So the first thing is the Racing Bulls. They bring a smaller wing in the back, so the smaller wing kind of creates less drag, which is good. But then there's also less downforce. How we mentioned downforce pulling the car, and so that can be an exchange of what's better. Like is less drag better or is less downforce better? Next, Ferrari, they changed their lower rear wing beam. So like their 2 wings in the back, their lower one, they kind of changed it more upwards instead of downwards. Just little, like I said, all of these are so minute changes, trying to just extract as much out of the car as possible. Then for the floor of the McLaren, they're changing pieces around the diffuser. So like the diffuser is kind of towards the back, and it's basically to help again downforce. And then the cooling layout. So how I mentioned before, these races are in the desert. The cooling layout is really important for these desert races. So a lot of the cars, what they do is they have kind of like slits on the side, and that cools the inside of the car because you don't want the car overheating. These cars are pushing hundreds of miles per hour for over like an hour and a half. So they get really, really hot. So some of them have, there's a lot of coolant that's running through their system as well because it can, that's scary if you don't have coolant in that system. But some systems are closed. So like beforehand, the Racing Bulls had a closed system. So like they didn't have kind of slits on their side. So they were running in a lot of coolant, which is, bad and good. Bad because when you're running that much coolant, that means your car is heavier, but good because you don't have those slits open and those slits can cause drag. So again, we're kind of doing a versus. You want your car to be heavier and then you don't have any drag, or do you want to have a little bit of drag and then your car is lighter because you don't have to run as much coolant? And so that's kind of the thing. So like one of the cars that they actually talked about a lot was the Red Bull and the Haas. They implemented these kind of like cooling slits from the beginning, from like China and like all the earlier races. So their cars have them already in there, and then they just open and close more of these slits depending on how much cooling they want in their system. But the Racing Bulls had a closed system. So their system, like I said before, was already closed, and now they've started opening them up, especially for this race because again, this race is really hot. So even having that much coolant wouldn't be helpful. They still need like air to get in there to kind of cool that system down. So that's where we are for tech. Now we're going to go into some qualifying. So for qualifying went pretty well. Q1, Q2 was pretty kind of normal for the most part. There was nothing really that caught my eye or attention. But Q3, poor baby, poor Lando Norris crashed in Q3. Coming off of turn 5, he hit the curb, lost control of the car, hit the wall. He was so down on himself. I feel so bad. He's so down on himself. Like he just needs to get a little bit of confidence. But I get it. Like he's literally or was number one in the drivers championship coming into this weekend. So knowing that he was crashing in Q3 is like not helpful for him getting the championship. So he was really upset about that. Which what can you do? So he started in 10th, and then Max. I okay. I really think they lied to us in the beginning of the year. They really tried to sell this story of, oh, Red Bull's not that fast. Like it looks like, the Ferraris might be faster, Mercedes might be faster. Like Red Bull looks like the fourth car in this like top set of cars. Blase blase. Like Max is gonna have to be carrying a tractor. And somehow Max is still pulling out fastest laps, breaking records, and getting pole. I think they've truly, truly either sandbagged earlier this season so hard that it tricked all the journalists and other teams, or Max is just such a phenomenal driver that he's able to drive what they call a tractor. And it's really hard to see which one is which because his second drivers haven't always been up to par. Like especially because he's had so many second drivers. There's no other driver, I guess, that's like in his realm that you can say, oh yeah, it's definitely the car because look, both the drivers are bad, or like it's not the car because one is bad, one is good. It's always been like Max is here, and the second driver is like somewhere back in the distance. And so Yuki's doing well, like he made it into Q3 and everything, but it's just like I guess the car is like not that fast, but Max is just juicing every ounce of energy he can get out of it. I don't know. I don't know, but he breaks the lap record for Saudi Arabia, gets pole, and just cruises into the night. I don't know how he does it. They're saying he might be the greatest of all time, even over Schumacher and Lewis and all of them. Hey, he got 4 championships. He got 3 more to go until he's even in that conversation. But I ain't gonna say he's shabby. He's a great driver. So moving forward from that, Max gets first, Piastri is second, and then Russell's third. So that's the order of qualifying going into the race the next day, right? All right, so boom, we're gonna go into the race. So now, race starts. Gasly and Sonoda, they're in the back like 10th or 11th, crashed into each other. Nothing nasty. It was just like I think Gasly couldn't see him. Like he was pulling up to go around him. He couldn't see how close he was, and then like Sonoda's front tire touched his rear tire. They both went off. They both couldn't finish the race, unfortunately. So it is what it is. Um, so that happened, and then Piastri and Max. Now we've seen this before. We've seen the McLaren Red Bull fight. We've seen Norris be up there with Max and them trying to fight it out for that first corner. Piastri, let me tell you something about that man. That man knows how to hold his line. What? That man is he is a very strong driver. That's why he's in my top 3. But he does not get bullied. He does not get bullied. He does not let Max Verstappen bully him. He was like, bro, we will crash or you move. That is how Piastri drives. He is like, we will either crash or you are going to move out my way. He holds his line for anything. And so they go into the first corner, right? And this put Max in a tizzy. So they go for the first corner. Max is on pole. Piastri gets a better start. So Piastri is coming up next to him. And again, McLaren does have the faster car. So Piastri's coming up next to him. Piastri takes the corner first. So he's in front. Hits the corner. Max goes on. Let me try to do this like with my hands. Max goes on the outside. The way the angle is set up, it looks like Piastri hit the corner first because he was ready to turn. Max is still going straight. So because he's still on the throttle going straight, he technically hits the corner first, but there was no way he was making the corner, meaning that he was going to go into the runoff area, pass him on the outside on the runoff area, and then go in front. Can't do that against the rules. So, after this happened, Red Bull going around Christian Horner printing out, look, he has the corner. He has the corner. He shouldn't like that. He got it. No, that man was never making that corner because they had that huge runoff and it wasn't a wall and it wasn't rocks. It wasn't anything like a gravel pit. He made the corner. He just drove straight like he was going to hit the wall. Passed Piastri on the outside of the track, got in front. Stewart said, no, no, no. But instead of doing it on the racetrack where they were like, you have to hand the place back and then all that type of stuff, they didn't do it on the racetrack. The stewards gave Max a 5-second penalty. He served it when he had to change his tires later on in the race. And then Piastri gets in front. So all fair and square. Max was heated. That man was pissed off. Max was not happy at all. His engineer was like, hey, no comment on the radio, like blah, blah, blah. Then the FIA president, Mohammed bin Salman, we don't like him over here. Most F1 fans don't like him, but we move. He come up to Max saying some stuff. We don't know what he said, but all of a sudden Max was stush. quiet enough when it came to the post race comments. When they were asking him questions, everything, he was like, can't comment, not commenting on how he felt, everything. He was just sitting there with a sourpuss face the whole time. So we don't know what he said, but we move. Anyhow, so Oscar wins, runs a great race, goes into the light. What happened then after? Because Zach Brown, he's like he's not even is he the president of McLaren? I don't know what he is. He's not the chief like engineer, chief like the principal. Because the principal is Andrea Bortelli or something like that. That might be a pasta. I will check my notes. The principal is somebody else, but Zach Brown is like the president, head marketer, whatever of McLaren. That man busted like the Kool-Aid man, yeah, and just
shaking hands, celebrating, and getting a big hug from Zach Brown, the CEO.
Cause he.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah!
like hugging up on Piastri. So that was interesting, very funny. But yeah, Oscar gets the win. Norris was coming back from 10th. He made it up to 4th, but he did not get he did not get past Charles for 3rd, which Charles was moving that thing, trying to get as much of that Ferrari as he could. George was in 2nd, which was like I said, George collecting up podiums left, right, and center. Actually, no, George was not in 2nd. What am I saying? Max was in 2nd. Charles was in 3rd. George was somewhere in the back. George was like 5th. I'm always thinking that George is on the podium now that I confuse myself. But no, Max was in 2nd. Charles got 3rd. So Norris did make it up from 10th to 4th, which is good, but he got stuck. He got stuck behind Lewis for 3 laps because he got caught in that DRS run. Lewis let him take him out in front, hit that DRS line, and kept lapping him back. So when Norris's engineers had to be like, "Yo, play the game. Don't pass him before that DRS. Let him go first, and then you get DRS and pass him, please." They were like, "Please stop doing this." So he didn't get up to 3rd because of those few laps that he was kind of playing that game. But he still did well, moving up from 10th to 4th. What else is on here? I found out. This is really odd. I found out that Alonso, which is a driver for Aston Martin, I haven't really been talking about them much because they haven't really been doing much. They're just, midfield to the lower 2 team, chilling. Alonso is Gabriele Bortoleto, so he's a rookie for Stake Sauber right now. He's his manager. They're both driving right now. Like, Alonso's a driver. He's been driving for like 20 some odd years. Alonso's like 43. Bortoleto, new rookie, coming in at Sauber. How is this possible that you're a manager of another driver and you're still driving? Like, this is not like you retired, you're a principal and a manager. Like, there's so many conflicts of interest. How are you because the only reason why I bring that up is because at one point, like, they almost touched, or they did touch or something like that. They didn't crash, but like they touched wheels or whatever. And they're like, "Oh yeah, they touched wheels of the manager," and I was like, "Manager? He's his manager? You can do that?" one like driver can be the manager of another driver. Like, I get it because like you have like, let's say LeBron James, right? He has a sports management company, him and his like friends, and then they manage other people within basketball. Understandable, because there's also so many teams and so many players and positions in basketball. Like, yes, it's a conflict of interest, but like, there's a lot of different positions. Like, you can, you're able to kind of move around and there's more freedom. There's 20 to 22 positions, 22 next year, 20 this year. That's how many positions there are in Formula One. It's a classroom, like the average size classroom of positions for this. What if it comes down to the wire and now you have one driver and Alonso and Bortoleto are the 2 drivers that need a seat? What happens then? I wonder. Like, are you gonna sit here and fight for yourself, like as Alonso? Are you gonna be like, yeah, you should pick me. I'm the more experienced driver, blah blah blah. Or are you gonna, be a manager and be like, no, you should pick the rookie that's like been doing pretty well and what? Like, how do you do that? Like, there's only so many positions, and you were able to be a manager of another driver. I think that's insane. I also think as the rookie, that don't make no sense. I get like mentor, you want to study under them, blah blah blah. Manager for real? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I'm just really heated because to me, I couldn't even fathom. My last thing, not least, I want to talk about Lewis's struggles. Lewis has been, and the thing is, he won a sprint race in China. So I don't get this whole notion because there's been a lot of talk about this. People, complaining. Lewis is never focused on the race. He's always focused on fashion and all the other things he does because that man does a lot. He's an entrepreneur. He's a driver. He does a lot of different things. And people talk, and he's the greatest of all time, still winning 7 world championships. But recently, new car. He's trying to adjust, trying to change his driving style that he's known for like over 20 years of his life. And he's won a race, knows kind of like the feel, but he's trying to still find the groove, trying to still get the groove back. And we also know that like sometimes these cars aren't suited for some of these races. So it might not just be him, it might be him and the car, who knows. But just this past weekend, because Charles was able to extract the podium, people talking about Lewis, and he's really down on himself as well. He's like, I need to switch my brain now. I just can't get it, blah, blah, blah. First of all, dude, relax. Relax. Like, you have time. You signed a 3-year contract. They're not going to give you up. You're Lewis Hamilton. So take a breath. 2, for all them people talking shit, that man is so focused. He has not done his hair in weeks. That man has not had fresh braids. And he usually keeps a fresh braid out, slick down edges. He hasn't had fresh braids in weeks. That man has been showing up to these races in team kit and a cap. You think that man's not serious? That's what I wore when I was like getting my degree. A cap and team kit. Like, serious. When you're that serious, he's not worried about fashion. He's not pulling up doing nothing. He is very serious. So I need y'all to stop talking about that man. I need Lewis and to breathe and relax. You're going to figure it out. You're going to get your groove back. And we move. And that is the wrap up for the F1. And it's so funny because as I wrap the F1, even while I was watching the race this weekend, we're going to switch gears to basketball. Talk about a gear shift. I changed from that F1 race and went over to basketball. And what did I see? Memphis getting dog walked. You heard me. Dog walked by OKC. So I'm going to start with the play-ins that happened on the 18th of April, and I'm gonna go through until today and then make some game predictions for tonight and tomorrow. So that's what we're gonna do for basketball. So I'm gonna quickly talk about the last final play-in games, which are the Heat versus the Hawks and Memphis versus the Mavs. So Heat versus the Hawks, that was a close game. Trae Young and the Hawks, they didn't play too well in the first half. They was looking kind of rough out there. And the Hawks come back in the second. It's a close fourth quarter. Trae Young makes a shot, makes it go to OT. Now they in overtime. Heat, not unfortunately, Heat still winning overtime, and they are now officially in the playoffs. We go to the Memphis game. Memphis versus the Mavs. Memphis was up by 20 points in the first half. John Morant, he was said to be iffy for that night because he had an ankle injury. I don't know what painkiller they gave him. Whatever steroids it is, put it on the open market. I'm gonna need that because that man was jumping like nothing was hurting. Everything was good to go. He was in no pain, and they was moving like there was nothing to lose. So Memphis ended up beating the Mavs, beating them bad. And the cameramen on NBA are so messy. They were doing a close up on the Mavs, like head coach and president or whoever that was that made the trade. They was doing a close up on that man, like, yo, you're looking dumb now. Look, you can't even make the playoffs. Hey. Their team was hurt. AD was hurt, like he always is. Shocker. And, they played well, but they just couldn't pull out the win. So Memphis win, Mavs lose. And that tied in to my last prediction. If you watch my last episode, what did I say? I said if the Mavs lose, the Lakers going to lose. And what happened the next night? The Lakers lost to the Timberwolves. I told you them boys was hungry on the Timberwolves, and the Lakers, once they saw Mavs lose, they ain't got nothing to fight for. Luka was like, "Oh, so y'all lost? Y'all ain't making it to the playoffs?" Ha ha, I did, and they have nothing to play for. Their coach JJ was like, "Bro, they playing like it's a regular season game and it's the playoffs. They need to get some energy." They have no energy. They lost by like 20 points. No, how much they lose by? Yeah, they lost by like 20 points. Got demolished by, not demolished, but they got beat by Timberwolves, and that was the first game. So then that happened on the 19th. So the 19th are all the official first playoff games. So then we have the Knicks versus Detroit. It was a close game all through the first 3 quarters because that's how Knicks like to play. Then they did a 21-0 run in the fourth quarter, and the Knicks win. So that was a great game for the Knicks. Shout out to them taking game 1. The Nuggets versus the Clippers. That was a close game in the third. Jokic had Jokic had this steal, right? And these commentators, they say, yo, they call it the slowest fast break they've ever seen in their life. I say, y'all don't have to bully this man. So what? He's not a great runner. There's a lot of not great runners out here, and we can still play some sports. We can still like make good moves. Just because we can't run, now we sit here bullying people. That's not nice. It's not nice at all. Okay, shout out to Jokic. He might not be able to run fast, but he's a great basketball player, and he's got a championship, and he's a great horse racer. Can you do that, sirs? All y'all people talking about this man that can't run. Anywho, we moved. The Nuggets win in overtime. That was a really good game, a really close game, and so yeah, it was fun to watch. Those are some of the games that are fun to watch. Again, like how I mentioned in my last video, Pacers beat the Knicks. Or no, the Knicks. Pacers beat the Bucks. But what I mentioned in my last video, that it was gonna be a boring game. I didn't really care too much about that game. I thought the Bucks were gonna win. Unfortunately, they didn't. And so yeah, that was disappointing. One of my predictions were wrong, but again we moved. Hop into Sunday. Talking about hop, like how I mentioned before, change from the F1 race into basketball. I see the Memphis game. I'm like, oh, cool. Let me stop by. Third quarter, I see 38-83. I thought the damn score was messed up. I was like, who messed up the score at the bottom? I thought they was pulling the F1, messing up all the times and stuff. I said, who? This score can't be right. 38 in the third quarter to 83? This is not correct. They said, no, this is very much correct. They're getting beat bad right now. I said, oh my gosh. What is happening over there? So yeah, what the hell? What the hellante Memphis? What is y'all doing? What was happening? Their legs would have to be jelly because it wasn't jam because nothing was shaking. Nothing was shaking over there. They lost so bad. It was disappointing. They lost 131-80. I don't know how you could recover from that. I would be so embarrassed. I would be so embarrassed. I don't know. But that was I would say interesting game, but seeing that score, I didn't even watch the rest of it. I was just in total shock. Then Magic versus the Celtics. The Celtics win, not a surprise. The Heat versus the Cavaliers. Cavs win, also not a surprise. Rockets versus the Warriors. Pretty close game. Not gonna lie, that was a close game. Warriors pulled it out by 10 because you got Jimmy buckets, you got Stephen Curry, the Curry goats as I like to call him. So yeah, they won on Rockets turf, and they did a pretty good game. We're gonna see what happens tonight. And that was on Sunday. So yeah, it was the 20th. Yesterday, April 21st. I'm doing this in chronological order because I gotta remember all this stuff. That's why, like I said, real journalist here, real journalism. Yesterday we had Nuggets versus the Clippers again, game 2. The Nuggets was a little rough around the edges. 7 turnovers. Kawhi went off for like 39 points. That man was all over the place that night. Yeah, the Nuggets had 2 opportunities to tie the game and ended up missing it in the end. And so they lost that second game. So now it's draw 1-1, Nuggets and Clippers. So we'll see how it goes for the next game. The Knicks versus the Pistons, also a close game, especially towards the end, because like I said, the Knicks love to play it close. They love to, the people get away in the first 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter they do a comeback. Love to be the comeback kids. Knicks came back in the fourth. Then Schroeder from the Pistons, that man laced 3. Cool. Knicks could not respond. Knicks couldn't respond. Jason Brunson, Mikal Bridges, no one could respond to that 3. That 3 just sat there. They had 2 3 opportunities and missed them both. It was just, that was so sad. It was so close. So now that series is also drawn 1-1. But I think, I'm a Knicks fan. We still gonna pull off the series. We're gonna get the series win. I don't care if it's MSG, PSENG, or IG. Knicks in 6. That's what I'm saying. Anywho, now we're gonna go into some predictions. So, like my last video, I was editing while I was watching the Knicks games. That's probably gonna happen with this video. So, check out some commentary throughout the video if check out some commentary in the next video if my predictions are coming right or not. Or in this video, I should say, check out if my predictions are coming out right or not. So anywho, tonight, April 22nd, the Bucks versus the Pacers. I'm gonna go with the Bucks again. They let me down the first time. I don't think they're gonna let me down the second time. But if they do, I'm never picking the Bucks again, and I'm gonna go all Pacers. But I think I'm gonna go Bucks, and I think they're gonna draw this series 1-1. Hopefully, I'm not wrong twice. Next is the Grizzlies versus the Thunder. I think the Thunder is winning. I don't think that would be a shocker to anybody if the Thunder wins. If they don't win, that would be a shocker. Don't think that's happening. I think the Thunder is going to beat Memphis again. Hopefully not as badly as they beat them the first time, but they still going to get beat. And Timberwolves Lakers, I think the Lakers got it. I think the Lakers, they got their ass beat this first time. They're going to lock in, right? That coach going to be on them behind. They're going to lock in, and they're going to win the second game. It's going to be close. It's probably going to be in overtime, actually. But I think they're going to lock it in. They're going to get the second game. Then for tomorrow, we have the Magic versus the Celtics. Again, I think the Celtics got that. We have the Cavs versus the Heat. I think the Cavs going to have it too. Like, they're the number one seed of the East, so they're going to lock it in. Warriors and the Rockets. We on Rockets turf. The Warriors won the first game. I don't think the Rockets going to let them win that second. They might, but I think, my prediction, I think the Rockets going to make a comeback. I think they have the home field advantage, and they're going to try to stop the momentum before it gets to Golden State. So I think the Rockets will win tomorrow's game. So those are my predictions for the next 2 days. Check out next week's episode. It's going to be just a basketball episode. So all y'all basketball heads, get excited. It's going to be no F1 because there's not going to be a race. Just basketball. And I'm going to catch you up on all the playoffs because there are so many games. 3 games a day. It is tiring, but it's fun.
Lakers
Catch y'all.
Lakers in 5. 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 It don't matter. Divorce court, child support, loot.